Hello and welcome to the FI Newscast, where we bring you relevant news in the food and beverage industry. Today is Friday, May 12th, 2023. We have a great show for you today. Our special guest is Emily Schultz, Senior Brand Manager for BentoBox. We're going to get into insights on Gen Z diners and the restaurant industry, best strategies and practices for capturing this crucial demographic. But first, we're going to cover some of the top stories from this week that we think are worth a second look. We start off in earnings, first in the CPG space, with the numbers continue to rise with Oatly. The plant-based milk company reported a first quarter of solid growth with a revenue increase of 18%. Certainly falls in line with what we've been seeing in alternative milks as a whole, leading the plant-based industry in both sales and household penetration. Some turnover news to report as well as Oatly's president, 𝗟𝗲𝘁'𝘀 𝗬𝗲𝘁 will replace Tony Peterson as CEO. Peterson will then become co-chairman. 𝗟𝗶𝗱𝗲𝘁 brands revealed that their first quarter saw some rebounds in the form of narrower losses and higher sales. The company reaffirmed its outlook of 3 to 5% growth for this year. In the meat space, Tyson Foods' second quarter revenues fell short of outlooks by nearly $500 million, with sharp declines in margins for chicken and pork. Reasons may include the rising costs of animal care due to inflation impacting expenses. While Beyond Meat still struggles in its numbers, first quarter sales reports did surprise analysts in being higher than anticipated. The company is seeking to raise an additional $200 million in an equity offering. In QSR, Wendy's International had some encouraging numbers to report. Q1 sales were above expectations. Domestic margins were up 15%, but caught partially dampened by higher labor and supply costs. Donut maker Krispy Kreme seems to be going pretty strong with positive growth to report in its last quarter. And outlook growth for the year is in between 8 and 10% due to continuous price increases and expansion in QSRs, drugstores, and club stores. And in food service distribution, Performance Food Group saw some volume and margin growth, but total revenues came up shy of estimates, dampening the year's outlook. But U.S. Foods Holding Corp had better news, seeing a net sales increase of nearly 10% and a total case volume growth increase of nearly 6%. In overall economy news, latest figures are out for the Consumer Price Index. Trends in April are showing an easing in inflation, coming in at 4.9% for all items. You can see in that graph there a downward pattern for almost all categories listed except for food away from home. That's ticked up slightly. Experts see this as a sign of hope that rising prices could cool off later this year. This hope is being further bolstered by latest numbers in the Producer Price Index, which also showed a smaller increase than Dow Jones expectations. Over in the retail sector, concerns regarding import-export activity. The National Retail Federation says they expect U.S. consumer good imports to decrease in the first half of this year. Estimates are showing that trade activity could be dropping by 23% in the first 6 months of 2023. The NRF is also expecting numbers to remain soft going into the fall season. Experts say the uncertainty of the economy spawned by inflation, high interest rates, and bank failures is putting pressure on trade activity. And America isn't the only one hit by trade woes. The Chinese GDP is having one of the worst growth trends in years, while its export numbers dropped almost 7% in April. In national news, many are continuing to feel the heightening effects of expired pandemic aid. Since the ending of pandemic SNAP benefits, the Census Bureau says that roughly 25 million adults did not have enough to eat in April. This compares with nearly 18 million in that same category last year. And since the pandemic crisis hit the U.S., grocery prices have gone up 23%, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And although food bank data is not available, Washington University found that in affected states, the number of calls to local service lines for information about food pantries increased by 10% between early March and mid-April. And finally, two companies are seeking solutions to that everlasting global challenge of protein sourcing. French startup 𝗟𝗏𝘁 has partnered with South Korean food company 𝗏𝗏𝘂 to develop products involving mealworms. That's right, mealworms. The new initiative is still in its initial stages of research and development, but according to 𝗟𝗏𝘂, data so far shows mealworms appear to contain the 9 essential amino acids for a well-rounded diet and are easily digestible in the human body. And those are your top stories. We're going to turn now to our special guest. She is the Senior Brand Manager of Public Affairs for BentoBox, a marketing and commerce platform serving the restaurant industry. BentoBox serves more than 14,000 restaurants worldwide, including Major Food Group and Union Square Hospitality Group. Our guest uses strategy, data, and current internet culture to make informed and creative decisions on how to promote a brand's social presence, strengthen community, and execute brand campaigns. She is Emily Schultz. Emily, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Susan. So glad to be here.
I want to ask you first off, what do you think about mealworm protein as an alternative source of nutrition? Do you think Gen Zers will go for that?
I'm here for it. I've been known to eat a cricket or two in my guacamole. I think it's interesting, and I know Gen Z is really interested in sustainability efforts overall, so I think they'd try it, maybe with the right influencer campaign. Mealworms, call me. I'll help you with your influencer campaign, and we'll get it started.
You heard it here first. Very well said, Emily. I think I'm in agreement with that. Let's get it started. I want to get into Gen Zers and dining out. So, Emily, what have you been seeing from where you are? What are the trends with Generation Z and patterns as restaurant trends?
Yeah, I think something that is a really interesting kind of place to start is that Gen Z, their top category on monthly spend is food and beverage. So they're absolutely, eating out. As a result of the pandemic, there's a lot of sort of that social interaction that they're still making up. So they're using these sit-down restaurants really as a place to commune, as a place to not only get nourishment from food, but really as a place to find social interaction with their friends, peers, colleagues, almost kind of like millennials and Gen X did kind of with hanging out at the mall. Gen Z is really doing that at restaurants, whether they be fast casual with seating options or really kind of those independent restaurants that are more traditional sit down.
Right. And we all know that Generation Z is definitely a demographic, a group, generation group that is heavily looked upon, to say the least, in media, in our culture. But when it comes to dining out, when it comes to restaurants, what makes them, Emily, what makes them such a unique demographic to look at? What are some attributes that make them stand out from other age groups when it comes to restaurant strategy?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, they're 20% of the population, so that's a huge number of people that could be repeat customers for your business, boost your revenue. So they're definitely an important group to study, and I'm glad that we are talking about them really seriously now. I think what is the most fascinating about them is that they're the first generation to completely grow up with the internet. So a lot of these digital trends, a lot of the tech that has really fast-tracked in the pandemic, they are completely up to speed with. It's part of their DNA. And I think restaurants really, in order to show success, need to meet Gen Z in the middle and really use technology to their advantage, whether that's like a loyalty program, whether that's online ordering, whether that's reservations, whether that's simply having a good TikTok presence. I think all of that is really important for Gen Z to get that brand loyalty to your restaurant.
And what would you say are the three biggest areas for restaurateurs to focus on when it comes to Generation Z and a desire to increase the number of patrons in this age group?
Yeah. So like I said, using technology to make things really convenient for them. Gen Z, it's in their DNA, it's in their blood to open an app for a restaurant or search a restaurant on Instagram or TikTok and then find their website. So again, using technology to make things really convenient for them, like direct ordering, online reservations, loyalty programs, like I said. I think listening to your audience, like I said, Gen Z really wants to be heard. They've grown up in the digital age. So really using social media or other platforms, email marketing to speak directly to their customers. There's a sandwich shop in LA called 𝗟𝗲𝘁 who really speaks to their audience directly on TikTok. They'll take suggestions from their audience and build a sandwich on TikTok for them. And it makes Gen Z feel really heard in that way. So just listening to your audience and using digital platforms to do so. And the third one I think that's really important is making a brand forward experience for diners. Whether they're dining in person, whether they're interacting with your brand from afar. I follow so many restaurants on social media that are not in the city that I live in, and I love interacting with them, supporting them through social media. 77% of Gen Z has taken an action from something they believe in. So if you have a strong brand that clearly shows your values, and those values can be, showing your sustainability efforts in person, or something like partnering with influencers who are super on brand for you, you can really make a repeat customer out of Gen Z.
Love what you're mentioning here. I especially love the example you just said about that sandwich shop 𝗟𝗲𝘁, how they really utilize TikTok to engage with their followers. That's such a great way of creativity within social media marketing. A lot of great stuff you shared, Emily, and more to come. We're just going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to have more with Emily Schultz of BentoBox. Stay with us. All right, we are back with Emily Schultz of BentoBox. We're going to get right back into it. Emily, as you were mentioning before, let's talk tech. I love what you said before. Tech, it's part of the DNA of Generation Z. I think that's such a great phrase to explain how tech savvy they are. It's no secret that Gen Z, they're big on tech practices. We saw a Numerator survey showed 60% of respondents in the Gen Z age group said when they were shopping, self-checkout is something that was important to them. I felt like that was a small example of the way that tech is just an integration into their lives. So speaking over into like the restaurant category, how can one optimize a restaurant's tech stack when it comes to ensuring efficiency that keeps pace with modern demand? Gen Z and being able to pay with Apple Pay, mobile wallets. Tell us your thoughts about this trend.
Yeah, I think that convenience and accessibility are two words that come to mind when thinking about how to maximize your kind of efforts on Gen Z, using QR codes on menus. Like you said, mobile pay, I think, is so important. Online ordering, all these different kind of ways to bring diversity and accessibility into your tech stack. I think it's really important to create a seamless experience too. Now that we have, not only a physical menu, but you have your online ordering menu or your QR code menu. You have a presence on social media. You have your website. There's all of these digital touch points that you can really create a seamless brand experience. And I think that's really important. An example is Bad Roman in New York. It's a fairly new restaurant, but it's getting so much love on TikTok. It's very over the top in a cool way. I'm dying to try their little pepperoni cups. But I think they're doing so successfully because you're searching for it on social media, whether that's TikTok or Instagram, and then you're able to go to their website really quickly and easily, see a lot of the same images, a lot of the same feeling that you're getting from their social media on their website. You're able to book a reservation. Maybe it is a hot ticket item reservation, but if you're lucky to get a reservation, you can do that super easily. And then when you go into the restaurant, you're having sort of that same experience. They're really translating that brick and mortar experience over to the digital space, which I think is so important for Gen Z. I also think that optimizing your tech stack we're talking a lot about like Gen Z diners, but also from the perspective of a restaurant, sort of keeping up with that is a lot. So optimizing your tech stack to really allow one first-party app instead of all these different third-party apps that require a lot of training for your staff, a lot of money for you as an operator, and also I think a huge part is providing these customer insights. When you use a third-party app, they own the customer data, whereas when you're using a first-party app like BentoBox, you're able to retain all of that customer data, which is really important to create those loyalty programs. So it all kind of just snowballs into each other in that way.
It's really interesting there. And I love that you just mentioned loyalty programs. That is my next question. Perfect segue. So with loyalty rewards programs, is Generation Z, first of all, is that something that they definitely respond to? I know that through my own research at the Food Institute, that's definitely something that consumers, as a whole, no matter what age group you're in, that's something that it's very important to them, especially right now. And how can restaurants build on loyalty rewards programs to continue to hold customers, keep customers in, even amidst economic turbulence?
Yeah, I always like to use the analogy of whenever we go to a restaurant on our birthday and we get that free piece of cake, like, why does it taste better? It's because it's kind of that surprise and delight moment that's so special, and what makes restaurants so special and makes us all really prioritize them and want to go back to them. It's that hospitality experience. And Gen Z is no different. They love that too. I think really offering value and rewarding customers for engagement. Loyalty programs have proven to be successful for everyone, and I think there's a lot of times when we think of loyalty programs, we think the restaurant has to give you a free meal, and that's not the only way to create a loyalty program. There's a lot of options there. You could, send out a special promotion for a Mother's Day discount. You could email about special reservations for an event. All these kind of different incentives. I think it's really important to communicate what those incentives are up front when you're creating a loyalty program. Again, Gen Z is very intuitive with the internet and is not afraid to kind of call out your bluff. So they want to know what they're getting up front. So as long as you are really expressing what they'll get out of the loyalty program, I think that it's a great tactic to create repeat customers from Gen Z. And like I said about the email promotion, there's a restaurant in San Francisco called Harborview. It's a Cantonese Chinese restaurant, and they essentially started doing automated emails from past diners and generated more than $75,000 in revenue. So totally possible just from a simple email campaign.
Going more into the social media space, that's an area that Gen Z is all over. Best practices for turning audience feedback into innovative and viral brand moments. What advice can you give? What guidance can you give to restaurants about that?
Yeah, I think something that's really important is setting expectations first and foremost. A lot of the kind of viral brand moments that we see are from, big fast food companies that have a whole marketing department, and oftentimes independent restaurants don't have the same luxury. So I think it's setting expectations and also knowing that you can do something really powerful and exciting for your audience without necessarily going internationally viral. One example that I really loved was there was a TikTok trend of these grinder sandwiches that was going super viral. It was more home cook, but Cutlets in New York City is a sandwich shop, a great sandwich shop, and they partnered with these influencers called Sister Snacking. It's these 4 sisters who go around and review food, and they partnered with them on a grinder sandwich. And I thought it was such a fun kind of spin on the viral trend. The restaurant themselves didn't make the viral trend, but they kind of capitalized on it in their own way to offer this item to their customers. I'm really on a sandwich kick today. I don't know why, but another kind of piece that wasn't necessarily viral, but really capitalized on a moment and tied together kind of social media and loyalty. Could be creating specials based off your customers. An example is I used to live in Maine, and a sandwich shop called Ramona's, which is so near and dear to my heart, made a special sandwich for my boyfriend's birthday that you could order on their online ordering platform. And, it didn't necessarily go viral, but it made us feel really special. It made all of us and our friends patronize the restaurant that day. And it was just a really special kind of hospitable moment that marries social media and hospitality and all of these things that we know Gen Z thinks is important.
Absolutely. Synergy, integration, terms that are very familiar within the food industry. Emily Schultz, Senior Brand Manager of BentoBox. Emily, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Before we go, we're going to take a look at what's coming up in the food industry in the coming days. On May 16th, the Census Bureau releases U.S. retail sales for April. And on May 16th, the same day, the Food Institute has a special webinar, CPG Brand Strength, featuring cognitive insights firm 𝗟𝗲𝘁. They're going to be looking at the Snack 50, the industry's first consumer site-based snack ranking. On May 17th, Jack in the Box releases latest Q2 fiscal year 2023 earnings. And finally, on May 18th, Dole PLC releases Q1 fiscal year 2023 earnings. And that is our show. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Susan Choi, reminding you to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this show across all social media channels. It helps us out a lot. And don't forget to tune in same time, same place next week. Our special guest will be 𝗟𝗲𝘗𝗏. She is the president of 210 Analytics, going to share some critical guidance on the food and beverage industry. Until then, have a great weekend and take care.